So, in Matthew chapter 6, in our current series upon further review, Jesus has been talking about, well, you've heard this, but that's not exactly it. I say to you instead this truth. And now in Matthew 6, he doesn't just talk about what they've heard, but he talks about what they've seen. And he talks about you've seen people who give in ways where they might as well be taking a trumpet call because they want everybody to see what they're doing. You've seen people who pray and they do it in ways in which it is, hey, the spotlight should be on moi right here. You've seen people fast and they try to come off like the Disney character Eeyore. Oh, woe is me. I'm so spiritual, and oh, this is so hard to fast like this. And Jesus says, you've seen these things. But instead, I want you to not just see another way of doing them. I want you to be the one who shows others that there is another way to do them. And in so doing, Jesus talks about reaching new spiritual heights. Now, you don't have to guess too much of why the pole vault is behind me this morning as we talk about reaching new spiritual heights. Pole vaulters, I've done a lot of crash course study up on them. Didn't know much before this week. They are an impressive athlete. They have the speed and employ the speed of a world-class sprinter, the ability of a world-class long jumper, the agility of a gymnast, and the flexibility of a ballerina. We have several pole vaulters in our congregation, several in the crowd today. Did not know until this week that Abby Dennis was a pole vaulter. She did not know until a few moments ago that I would be looking at her from the stage right now. And didn't know that she won until minutes ago regionals yesterday. So Abby, way to go on that. Impressive. We have kids so well-rounded in so many different ways. One young man that I did know was a pole vaulter. In fact, not just kind of a pole vaulter. In my backyard, we have things like cornhole and Adirondack chairs. In the Hanoch backyard, they have this. And, this is what I was thinking about putting up next to my backyard. But nevertheless, Brandon Hanoch is a fantastic pole vaulter, as Abby and others. I apologize, I do not know that you're into this. I'm sure afterwards I'll find out. But Brandon, right now, is the number one high school pole vaulter in the state of Oklahoma. He is a senior. Amen. I believe that he's number 23, maybe 27. It's there in the 20s in our nation. In fact, I've been told that he's not only the number one high school pole vaulter in our state, that if you throw OU, OSU, and TU into the mix as well, he doesn't drop much. He goes to the number 3 pole vaulter in our state. In fact, he has set the record at Broken Arrow High School just not that long ago. And here is a short clip of how he is received after breaking that record. So pole vault can be dangerous in a number of ways. You make it safely over, and then your friends tackle you and bury you under a human dog pile. So if you would, I'm going to ask Brandon if you would come up here on stage now. Y'all give Brandon a hand. Brandon is being very gracious to be here today because as soon as this lesson is over, he'll be hopping in a car, and there's a little school about 2 hours east of here that has a fairly decent track program, Arkansas, where he'll be meeting with the coach. And so anyway, thank you for being here today, Brandon. What I'd like to ask you before we get into the actual, the going over and all of this, and I'd like to do this in just a second, but we'll hold back on that,
We can get you up there.
No, we won't be doing any of that. And so Brandon, before we talk about the actual physics that are employed of getting over that bar, and this bar right now is at about 15 feet. The jump you saw Brandon make a moment ago is 16 feet. Our roof will not allow us to go any higher than we currently are at this moment. Before we talk about getting over that bar, could you talk to us a moment about all of the things that are done before you even begin to move down that runway of a track to make this jump?
Yeah, so in the pole vault, there's a lot of just things that you have to be aware of when you're going, whether it's your run or the pole you're on or just how you're carrying it. There's just so many different variables that you have to be aware of, and that's what makes it a difficult sport, and that's why I love it.
So when you run, Brandon, I was not aware that you get to choose the length of run that you make.
Right.
And so you run how far before you plant that pole?
So I started about 96 and a half feet, so that's how far I run from the box right here where you plant. But you can choose anywhere, and I have it down to an inch, and I have to hit every spot and every step the same.
So you don't just, hey, I think I'll do 80, I think I'll do 100. You know at 96 and a half feet that your foot at that plant is going to be within an inch of where it is every time.
Pretty close, yeah. Within 6 inches, I'll be right.
And I didn't know that in pole vaulting you can choose any length pole you want, but the length pole you use is?
Right now I use a 14 and a half foot pole, but that could change, and hopefully it'll go longer. But
okay. And you take into account things such as wind or chalk up the hands to hold on to the pole, all this prep work?
Yeah, so the wind can play a big part. A crosswind doesn't usually help much. It can blow your pole around as you're running, but you usually want to have a nice little tailwind to just blow you a little bit as you're running. But there's different factors that go into that, and then the chalk for your hand grip just to help you hold on to the pole a little bit better.
Ton of things employed. In fact, the world record of where Brandon is headed for, no pressure there, but we couldn't put that bar starting at the floor. This is an 18-foot ceiling from where you're sitting to the to the ceiling, and the world record right now is at 20 feet 2 inches. And so it's just an amazing thing what these young men do. Now, interesting thing, and I didn't know this until a few years back. I was slow coming to the party on this piece of information. You got into this sport in large part because of?
My dad and my brother were the big parts.
Okay, so I'm going to put them on the spot right now. Austin and Jeff Hanoch, if you would come up, give these guys a hand as they come up. So we've got older brother Austin, pole vaulter in high school. We've got dad as well, Jeff. Now here's where he kind of knew this was coming. So we've got right now 16 feet is where we stand.
That's right.
And that is the Broken Arrow High School record, but it's not the Hanoch High School record. Claremore High School still has a record of 16 feet 1 1/4 inch set by dear old dad over here. And so we got a little competition going on here. And so if you could hand the mic to your dad. Jeff, I don't understand anything about physics whatsoever to begin with, but especially when it comes to this event. Tell me a little bit about the physics involved in running, planting, and going up.
Well, I am an engineer, so I do love getting into the physics.
Okay.
I'll try not to go that way. A lot of people's eyes gloss over when I start doing that.
Okay.
So I won't mention things like kinetic energy and gravitational potential energy and center of mass and any of that kind of stuff. Because
that's good.
You guys don't want to
my eyes aren't glossed over. My brain is glossed over. Okay. All right. Kinetic, potential. Okay.
Basically, what it boils down to is you want to be in the right position at the right time.
Okay.
You want to build up speed on the approach where you build up your energy. And then when you plant the pole, we're going to convert that energy that speed energy into height.
Okay.
So the faster you run at the plant, the higher you have potential to go. And then,
okay.
So it all happens really quick. As you saw on the pole, it takes about 5 seconds probably to complete a vault. And out of that 5 seconds, there's 1 second there that you're trying to do most of the stuff. So everything happens really fast. You're trying to plant, take off. There's a swing portion where you're swinging on the pole. And then the scary part, you turn upside down in inversion because you have to get upside down to go over the bar to get the height that you want. Okay,
so you're going literally heel over head upside down to go up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And then the final part, which is the fun part, is we're actually clearing the bar, and that's the easy part because once you're up there, you've already done all the hard stuff.
Easy for you to say.
The pole,
right. The
pole is basically from physics. You've put all the energy into it. It's throwing you up there. And And then all you have to do is make sure you don't knock it off with an elbow or a leg or something like that.
Just minor things, all right.
So,
Austin, any?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I learned from being a vaulter was that as physical of a sport as it is, the most important part of it is the mental, emotional side of it. While you do have to be, a gifted athlete, you have to be strong, in shape. If you are not, when you step on that runway, if you are not 110% mentally committed, you're not going to jump high. When you plant that pole, if you're not 110% committed to swinging upside down, you're not going to jump high.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's scary. It's not natural. There's probably something crazy about us when we do this. But, you're holding a pole 10 feet off the ground and you have to swing upside down. And that is a scary thing to do. So a good vaulter, they have control. You're mentally focused. You have control of your emotions. It's a very frustrating sport, and you have to learn how to deal with that.
So when they speak of, there must be something a little bit different with this family, a little bit crazy. There are brothers involved. There are other cousins involved. And all of this comes from the center and the person who brought crazy to this family, because you got it from your dad. And then a big part of helping you out in this sport has been...
When I was little, I used to look at my dad's trophies from when he pole vaulted.
Okay.
So he was a pole vaulter in high school and then went on to college.
John, come up and join the fun. Where is John? All right, y'all give a hand for John. John just hops up those steps. John, I want you to come stand right in the middle of these guys that I know you are so proud of. And John, now I know when you got into this sport just a few years back, or actually, I'm having a little bit of fun there, when you were a young man, teenager, that you had all of the blessings of fiberglass composite poles, that you had a bag just like this to land on, that you had an indoor area where wind was not a factor. Was that just what you got into as a teenager?
Well, let me tell you, it was like this.
Okay.
When I was young and I was just getting into the sport, I was in my backyard and I had some of my neighbor boys over, friends, and we cut a pole, a wooden oak pole off of a railroad right-of-way.
A oak pole off of a railroad right-of-way.
7 or 8 feet long.
Okay, 8 foot long
And,
oak tree branch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought, this would be fun. So we got over and we dug a hole by the fence. By the way, it was a barbed wire fence about 4 foot high.
There's your motivator to get over.
And,
We've got barbed wire involved.
and it was do or die,
Okay.
So we started jumping and having a good time, and we got to talking. We said, hey, it'd be kind of fun to go out in our field out here and build our own pit and have our own pole vault facility. And so my dad had just got through adding on to the house, and there was a pile of sand over there, so we brought the sand over, to land in, so it'd be nice and comfortable when we came down.
Great.
So we got to jumping in the backyard, and we put two 2x6s together, and we put nails starting at 4 foot up to about 10, 11 foot, 6 inches apart. So we started jumping, and things was going well for us. And but the landings was kind of, it was hard. it actually hurt. And
so you're trying to land on your feet every time.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so anyway, we got started, and the neighbor boys, we did well, and we learned as we went along, and so we got up to about 10 foot in the backyard, landing on the sand, the first thing we did was to have to learn to land on our feet.
That's good.
And so we would start off, jumping small heights and going over the bar and landing on our feet. And so then we went on up, and so then we got into high school, and we graduated up to Swedish steel pole vaulting poles. You
got rid of the oak tree limb branch.
Yeah, it finally broke.
Okay, great. Okay. So now you're running down with a piece of steel in your hands.
Yeah, Swedish steel, and
okay.
they were probably 13, 14 foot long at the time. And it was still a stiff pole, but we managed to get through high school with one, and about 12, 13 feet, was not too bad. But
guys,
anyway.
I want y'all to give these guys a hand. Give these guys a hand.
But anyway, I want to say that I know how proud God was of Jesus, and I've got the pride here too.
Amen.
And my youngest son, Heath Hanoch, is sitting out here. He was a 2-time state champion pole vaulter.
Heath, go ahead and stand up. I didn't know you were going to be here today. Heath, there we go. And we've got one more person to have to ask to stand, the videographer of all of this. Gail, please stand up. With Super 8 camera back in the day. All right.
Gail and Reese and Laura was the backbones of our trips that we would take.
Okay.
And that's what bonded our family together, was the trips that we got to take. They were the most memorable trips. We would just put the pole vault poles on a van.
Family trips with the pole vault.
Family trips.
Okay.
If anybody wants to get bonded with a family, just pick anything that you can do that the whole family likes, and do it, because it bonds your family together, and we've grown so much. I've got 4 grandchildren, 3 boys and a girl, and what you ought to see that girl, she'll get at the end of the pit, and she would take off down the runway, no fear, and jump, and she did well. And this is the only one that's left in high school, and I'm very proud of him. He has exceeded all my goals. And
y'all give these guys a hand one more time. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate y'all, and I know you love that, letting me share that illustration with you. I know that 10 years from now for our youth group, I'll ask them, what did I preach on 10 years ago? And they'll go, we have no idea what you preached on 2 weeks ago, as I struggle sometimes with my memory. But we can reference pole vaulting, and it's going to come back to them. If you have your Bibles, please turn to Matthew chapter